It was just a week after my 30th birthday, and our 1-year anniversary was approaching. I was deeply in love with my girlfriend, 28. She's the most beautiful, ambitious, intelligent, and kind person I've ever met. It's remarkable how aligned our values and aspirations are, and we shared so many hobbies and interests. In all of my previous relationships, I've never felt such an effortless connection. She's the first person I found myself wanting to spend my life with, and I was engaged at one point, a different woman. I've poured my heart into our relationship, constantly striving to support her in every possible way. Whether it was showering her with compliments, encouraging her pursuits, or surprising her with thoughtful gifts, I've made it my mission to make her happy. Due to her situation, I financially shouldered the burden of our dates. When staying in, I gladly took charge of cooking duties. She despises cooking. From assisting her through post-surgery recovery, to chauffeuring her for 2 months while her car was in the shop, to helping her move apartments on short notice, and giving her money when she accidentally overdrew her account, I tried to show that I was a hard-working, loyal, and committed partner. To be clear, these aren't things she was asking me to do. I was happy to do them. I was looking for any excuse to spend time with her anyway, and I wanted to show that I was part of this team. This was her first serious relationship, and she showed some hesitancy in some aspects. She almost broke up with me at the beginning of the year. She said that I was way more invested in the relationship than she was, and that she was struggling to see a future with me. She came back the next day and apologized, and said that she's not used to having to account for another person in her plans for her life, and she panicked. We agreed to work on things, and I tried to take things slow and asked her to set the pace of the relationship. Despite my unwavering commitment, we encountered a few stumbling blocks, particularly in communication, especially in the realm of emotional support. While she values her independence, she occasionally finds herself overwhelmed when things go wrong. I made concerted efforts to be someone she could rely on, employing active listening and empathy. However, she expressed a desire for more from me. The biggest issue was her preference for me to anticipate her needs without her explicitly articulating them. She often expressed frustration when I've inquired about how best to assist her during times of distress, preferring instead that I take initiative without prompting. Despite my best intentions, this task often felt akin to mind reading, leaving me walking on eggshells to avoid disappointing her or upsetting her further. So often I would reach out to support her, giving her room to vent, actively listening, and validating how she's feeling, but she would immediately snap at me because she wanted something else or felt that I wasn't doing enough. Then she'd become more frustrated at me than at the original problem, and either hang up or stop responding to my texts and would go full silent treatment the rest of the day. Things seemed to be fine when we were actually together, but over the phone or via text always seemed to result in me fucking things up somehow. I asked her so many times to please just clarify what she needs from me, but she always refused. Things had been going well between us, with over a month passing since the last issue. After spending a long weekend together, she left my place for work. She hoped to visit her sister and new nephew and a few friends later in the afternoon depending on the weather, which was forecasted to be nasty. We were exchanging our usual updates throughout the day when she mentioned her broken fan. The fan was basically brand new and pretty expensive. She was upset that she might have to buy a new fan when she couldn't really afford it at the moment. I suggested checking if it was under warranty, but the call center was closed. I thought it would be sorted out eventually when they reopened. Then she texts me about a meeting she had with her boss. She works for a nonprofit, and the employees are expected, basically required, to donate to the nonprofit at the end of their fundraising campaign. She's the one that actually records donations, and she can see that everyone else is donating way more than she can afford. She tried to clarify with her boss what was expected of her, but was told to just give whatever she can. I respond to this by saying how shitty and entitled that was of her boss/organization, and if I was in her spot I'd just give $20 since no other expectations were set. She responded with a curt, "That's all you took from that?" I replied no, her boss is being really unfair to her, and the whole situation is frustrating. At that, she fell silent despite my attempts to engage her through Instagram and Snapchat. The workday ends, still no reply. I thought that she might have visited her sister or met up with a friend given her preference for disconnecting from phones during social interactions, so I waited. However, as nearly 3 hours elapsed without any communication, I started to get worried. Sending additional messages and snaps yielded no response. She wasn't even viewing the messages. I contemplated calling her but I hesitated, not wishing to intrude if she's preoccupied. After almost 4 hours, she finally responds to my text, expressing a desire to cancel our plans for the following day. She was upset with me and needs some space to think about the future of our relationship. She said that I made no effort to emotionally support her when she was having an awful day, and that she expected me to call her, but I couldn't even put the effort in to do that. I extended heartfelt apologies, explaining that since she wasn't responding to my other messages, I thought she was busy, and that I misinterpreted the situation and I didn't realize she was that upset based off of the messages she sent. I offered to call immediately if she still wanted to talk, but also reiterated my frustration of navigating her unspoken needs. However, she asserted to having communicated her needs repeatedly without apparent comprehension on my part, and that she stopped responding because it was pointless to try to get the message across anymore. I told her that I loved her and asked her to please reach out when she was ready to talk, but I didn't hear from her for the rest of the evening. The next morning, she asks if she can come over after work. I immediately responded with a yes. I ask her about how her day is going, but still get blunt one-word answers. After a grueling day, she finally comes over. We go over our communication issues again. I explain how this all made me feel, almost like I become her emotional punching bag when she gets overwhelmed. I knew that isn't the case and said as much to her, but I explained how much it hurt when she would give me the silent treatment instead of guiding me to what she needs. I would have been happy to call her had she expressed that she needed to hear from me. I explained how desperate I was to support her, but she wasn't giving me anything to work with. She said that acting on her needs is less important to her than me showing effort for her, and in general she hadn't been seeing much of that from me recently. She cited the date I had originally planned for that night as an example of my lack of effort. I had wanted to go to our favorite food truck and grab dinner, take her to one of my favorite cocktail bars that she's never been to before, and then go tipsy book shopping. She focused on the food truck, and was upset that we always seemed to go there. To put it in perspective, we tried to go to the truck a few weeks before, but they were closed unexpectedly. The last time we actually got food from them was 2 or 3 months previous. She didn't explain any of this when she originally turned down that idea, and only said that she wasn't feeling that kind of food. She didn't comment on the bar or bookstore plans. I had no idea she was feeling this way. I also felt a little slighted by the fact that she turned down the idea to begin with. A few weeks prior, we had a conversation about how I was always deferring to her when it came to date ideas, and how little I got to pick what we did, where we ate, what movies or shows we watched. I was frustrated at this, because I wanted to share all of these things with her that she always turned down, despite them often being shared things that we loved. At the time she apologized, and said that if I wanted to do something with her I just needed to ask and she'd go. However, here was another example of her turning down a date that I planned, something I genuinely wanted to share with her. And on top of that, I was being called lazy for it. In her case, most of the dates she recently planned involved bed rotting and watching her favorite show. Just the weekend before this I took her to our first date spot / favorite wine bar, a new food truck, and to see her favorite band in concert. She suddenly followed up with saying that she doesn't really feel like she knows me all that well, and can never figure out what I feel or think. This hurt even more. Even if I hadn't had a falling out with my friend group a few months prior, I couldn't go to my friend's wedding that was rescheduled last minute to be the Friday before Christmas. When I was going to be out of town, I still considered her my best friend. I shared so much of myself with her, and was always open about what I felt or thought about things. I explained that I didn't feel like she was putting in the effort to know me if she felt that way. I contrasted this with how I interact with her. I always showed interest in her thoughts, feelings, experiences, and hobbies. I always asked her follow-up questions, and tried to generate genuine discussions so I could learn more about her. I used our shared love of books as an example. I always asked her about what she was reading, how she was enjoying it, and what her books made her think or feel. I even asked to read those books a few times just so I could connect with her more, despite them really not being my kind of books. On the other hand, she never showed interest in what I was reading. For Christmas I even got her a book that I fell in love with that was a blend of the genres we read. I was so excited to share it with her, and thought she'd love it. It's short, she could have probably read it in under 2 hours. Considering how much she reads, it wouldn't have taken that long. I even offered several reading dates where we could hang out at home, drinking tea and reading that book so we could discuss it together. She always picked her newest romance book instead, and said that she didn't know when she'd get around to reading it. This played out so many times over so many mediums. She constantly turned down places I wanted to take her to, restaurants and bars I wanted to try, movies, shows, and books that were important to me. I had been trying to get her to watch The Princess Bride with me since Christmas, since she's never seen it. It's absolutely something that she would have loved if she tried it, but instead we always had to watch whatever comfort sitcom she was binging at the time. I felt like I was offering up all of these little pieces of me to her, but she didn't care. She then asked me what I wanted for myself. I made it clear that I was happy with where I am. I have a good job that pays $75,000 a year at 35 hours a week. I had previously come from a job where 84-hour work weeks were the norm. I was also taking care of my father, who I lost a little over a year and a half ago. I have no career ambitions at the moment, and just wanted to focus on the things that made me happy, my hobbies, travel, and our relationship. I knew that she had very specific goals for her life, and explained that I'm flexible and want to put that energy into building a life with her. She then said that she didn't feel like our relationship was moving fast enough, and was concerned that we had no real plans for our future at this point. Keep in mind, this is a complete 180 from what she was saying a few months ago. I also wasn't happy with where we were at, but I didn't want to risk going too far too fast and scaring her off again. But I was always bringing up our future, asking her about what city she might want to move to. She was very unsure if she wanted to stay in our current city. She was used to moving around every few years and had admitted that she was starting to feel stuck. I asked her about apartments, what neighborhood she might want to look into if we were staying in our city, about rent budgets. I even brought up that I was working from home more, so in the event we did leave our city, I could make a case to my boss that I could work from home full time. She rarely engaged with any of these. She would always say that she didn't want to think about moving again. She had to unexpectedly move a few weeks before this, or at the worst point she said that she was waiting to see how our relationship went before she made the decision to move to another city. I wish I explained this to her, but at this point everything was becoming too overwhelming and I was struggling to articulate my thoughts and feelings. Instead of saying all the things above about what I wanted for our future, I mumbled something about how I maybe built up our relationship too much in my mind. I was still worried about coming across too strong and scaring her off. I mean, I was very open about all of these things. I had also asked her to set the pace for the relationship after she almost left me before, but she never brought it up. I thought that if she really was ready to talk about this, we would have more solid plans already. I asked her if we could take a break and come back to this tomorrow. I needed time to calm down and think. She said no, this needed to be addressed tonight. At this point I was completely emotionally drained, and just started crying. She stated that she felt that our communication styles were just too different, and that she had been talking about this for a while with her friends, family, and therapist. I asked her if she would consider couples counseling, but she said no. At that point she went up to my bedroom to gather the things she had at my place, said goodbye to my cats, apologized saying that she never meant to hurt me, and effed. She never really showed much emotion through the whole thing, other than mild frustration. About a week and a half later, I was in a bad place. I wasn't able to sleep, could barely eat, no longer felt enjoyment for any of the things I used to enjoy. Honestly, I'm still in this spot. I had seen the total solar eclipse and felt nothing, just wishing that I was with her doing our original plans of watching her favorite show while avoiding the insane crowds and traffic. So I tried smoking weed for the first time since we started dating. Her mom was an addict, and she asked me to quit for her, so I never smoked through our relationship. I was just hoping that I would be able to relax, actually have an appetite for once, and be able to get a few hours of uninterrupted sleep. Instead, it threw me into a full-blown panic/anxiety attack. The crushing weight of how alone I felt, how my best friend was gone, and with her all of my hopes and dreams for the future broke me. I basically had zero plans in the short, medium, and long term that didn't center around her. I made the mistake of trying to call her, desperate to do anything to fix things. When she didn't, I texted her blocks and blocks of words about how sorry I was, how much I loved her and missed her, how I would do anything to fix things. I also tried to say all the things I had wanted to say about what I wanted for our future, but it just kind of came out as unhinged begging/rambling. She responded quickly, saying that we were no longer together and haven't been for a while. I made her so uncomfortable and broke so many boundaries. She never said not to contact her, but I guess it was implied. Again, I couldn't get a read on what she wanted. She told me to get some help, that she never wanted to hear from or see me again, and that she was blocking me. It's been 2 weeks since then. I haven't gotten any better. I'm the kind of person that takes a while to fall in love with someone and open up to them, but once I do, I feel like I'm stuck on them forever. My last serious relationship, one where my ex was abusive, still took me almost 4 years to get over. I just wished I would have called her. For once I was actually able to anticipate what she needed but didn't act on it.